I'm
We
not
good?
there. Like more pins.
Okay, good morning, folks. Welcome to Executive Committee. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki in the district of Spagnagity, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. East Hants further acknowledges the 50 African Nova Scotian communities whose 400-year history have contributed to the province's culture, history, and legacies. We are all treaty people. Okay, I'd just like to say that Councillor Perry is running a little late, but he will be joining us. And Warden Ralston is under the weather, so she's going to be joining us by Zoom. Okay, I'm going to start with corporate and residential services this morning. And I'll be looking for any changes in the approval to the agenda. Seeing no changes, the agenda is approved. Also be looking for any changes to the minutes of December 9th, 2025. Seeing no changes, the agenda is approved. The first item on our agenda this morning is a presentation from the Enfield Volunteer Fire Department with Luke Guthrow, Captain and Chairman of Hall Planning Committee, Enfield Fire Department, and you're up. I'll just get you to press your mic button there.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just one
Just one
sec.
second.
You're good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you introduced myself already, I am Luke Guthrow, Chair of our Hall Planning Committee and representing Enfield Volunteer Fire Department today. So we're here today to request East Hants Municipality take over the ownership of our property located on 273 Highway 2, Enfield, Nova Scotia. The plan would be for the Enfield Volunteer Fire Department to maintain all risk, operating and maintenance costs of the property, and it would be proposed a legal rental or lease agreement be agreed to if this was to move forward. Our justification behind this is to obtain grant funding to construct a new fire station on that existing property. So just kind of walk through the why of why we're looking at a new fire station. Currently, right now, the Enfield Volunteer Fire Department averages about 350 calls annually. Our current apparatus, I don't know if anybody has been there, but we have 4 apparatus that is within a 2-bay design, and our trucks are stacked up, which is delaying our emergency response, and we think it is a public safety concern. We want to be able to be efficient in getting out the door to respond to our emergencies. We also have bunker gear bays that kind of line our apparatus bays, so when our members respond, they are getting dressed around our trucks, which may or may not be moving. They're also being exposed to the carcinogens of the trucks running. We think that is a huge health and safety concern for our membership. Currently, right now, we also have staffing there on Monday to Friday. These folks don't really have a safe area to go. They have our radio room, which is right off our apparatus bays. They don't have a crew quarter or anything like that. Another thing, right now, we're working with very limited storage on site. We've recently put a shed on the side of the property. We've maxed out that storage. We have a little bit of overhead storage over our community hall. That is currently maxed out, and we have no room to expand to have more storage or have more gear available on site. So what we'd be looking for in the future, just to kind of catch everybody up, we've gone through all the way to a schematic design and a Class C estimate with A49 architectural engineering firm, as well as Colliers Project Management. So they have designed a 4 apparatus bay fire hall for us, be approximately 2.5 or 3 stories, depending on how you would look at it. This would allow for no apparatus bay stacking, so all trucks would have their dedicated bay. Would be a separated gear storage and ready room, so our members would be able to enter the building in a safe manner into the gear room, get their gear on, and be able to respond to the call. And this would also now include a decon and shower area. So when our members return from a call, they'd be able to take their gear to a gear washing area. They'd be able to have a shower at the fire hall, and they'd also be able to wash any personal items at this time. We see this as a major safety concern. With cancers and other things like that, we don't want to have carcinogens exposed to our members, as well as them taking it home to their families. And in our current state, we're not able to do so. We have one shower accessible, and they have to contaminate our members' area to access this shower. This ties into the next point of having a clean second floor area with a multi-purpose room and a fitness center. So the clean idea there is there'd be no contaminants and carcinogens entering this area. It'd be strictly plain clothes, and then have an area for our members to be able to socialize and hang out. Our day staff to have a space to be able to have a kitchen and an area for them to be housed in. And then a fitness center for our members to be able to maintain physical health so that we're at our best to respond to calls. The area that we are calling a dorm style area is just for future proofing, where we do have 2 staff there, currently 7 to 4, with a potential of 4 in the future. We don't know what the next 20, 30, 40, or 50 years is going to bring, so we want to make sure we are future proofing this building. As I mentioned, our main focus behind this is safety. It is the public safety as well as our member safety. We want to be able to have our trucks maneuvering without member exposures. So trucks able to respond without members coming in our doors or backing in and members are trying to take their gear off within feet of these apparatus. We also want to contain that exhaust contamination and off-gassing of gear, hoses, other gear and stuff when we go to a fire. We want that to be contained and be able to be deconned in the available manners and not exposed further to our members. Within our current setup today as well, we don't really have options for washing and drying our trucks. We have to do it outside, obviously with winter conditions on a day like today isn't feasible, or we're doing it in the bays where our bunker gear and personal items are being exposed to the contamination. We have no hose drying area, so we come back from a call. We could have upwards of 2,000 foot of hose that needs to be washed and dried, and currently we're laying this on an apparatus bay floor. It is a hazard to our members when they have to respond to future calls, as they could be tripping over the hose that is on our apparatus bay floors, and the hose could be damaged as we respond to calls. As it is a risk, it could be driven over. So why we want to go after this grant? Currently, in our levy as of the end of 2025, we have just shy of $1.5 million. Current operating account, we have just shy of $175,000. The new build Class C estimate came in just shy of $12.5 million. Our current tax rate is 14 cents on the $100, but we did just purchase a new rescue pumper to replace our current rescue. And this came in at a cost of $1.9 million. And that does not include any of the required hoses or equipment to go onto this apparatus. So we see the grant as an option available to us to continue to operate and be able to build this new firewall that we see as a requirement for our community. Just to give you guys some ideas of the call stats and population, 2023, we did 328 calls, 2024, 351, and we did close out 2025 with 351 calls. But this was with November and December being a reduction in our medical response as a trial to see if that was going to change our call volume, which it really has not. We're estimating approximately 400 calls for the year of 2026. And the population of Enfield in 2021, that was the latest census I was able to obtain, was just over 6,500. But as you're all well aware, the population is increasing with the new developments, new apartment buildings, new housing. So we can foresee our call volume just increasing as time goes on. Our current response area is just shy of 12 square kilometers. So it is a very large response area within the municipality of East Hants. So just to finish things off, just to let you guys know a little bit about the grant, which we are hoping to apply for. It is the Capital Project Net Zero Transformation Grant. The program offers a combined loan grant amount of 80% of the eligible cost, up to a max of $10 million, with the grant portion being 15% of the total loan amount. This has helped other fire stations. We were not able to find any examples within Nova Scotia, but we did find with recent ones issued to Canmore, Alberta of just over $8 million, as well as Peterborough, Ontario of $9.3 million. To have access to this grant, it does need to be a municipal owned property, as we are a municipal service. That's why we've come forward with this request to the municipal councillors today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'll just remind everyone that you need to sign in again if you haven't seen that already. And now we'll move on to any questions that councillors might have regarding this presentation. Okay, seeing no questions, we will take all this information under advisement. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Fire Service Association of Nova Scotia Fire Governance Review with Adam Clarkson and Calvin Baird.
I'll drive, Shirley.
The CAO would just like to comment.
Just with respect to the presentation, thank you very much for coming. Just with respect to process, so the presentation's been given to committee. This will now go back through to council on their agenda to see what they want to do next as a group. Usually that the conversation happens sort of next Wednesday night at council rather than here on committee day. Thanks.
All right, I'm good, Shirley. Thank you. Good morning, committee. We are here to provide an overview of the Fire Service Association of Nova Scotia's governance study that committee is aware of, that the province, well, really it was an independent study done by, and I'll refer to them as FSANs throughout the conversation today. But the province did fund it in 2025, so there is quite a link, albeit independent. The province did fund the report for FSANs, and after the recommendations, there's 40 of them in the report, were presented to the government. There was some draft bill that was drafted up. It didn't move through the process, but it did kind of send the message to provincial staff to take those recommendations along with the value for money audit that was done on the training facility and to come back to legislation in September of 2026, so this September, with some potential legislative changes. And also kind of the direction at that time was to go through in early 2025 the engagement with the fire services and municipalities and so forth. And that engagement actually has already started. The report references that it's going through January. And there was a meeting this past weekend at Upper 9 Mile River that Calvin attended. So this report was actually drafted and finalized before that meeting. And we can speak to it later. There were four of our 13 departments there. And I think that meeting, our interpretation was a little more informing versus kind of consulting. There was some workshop work that happened, but I think one of the takeaways is at the end of the day, you'll see in this report here that it talks about, well, we may be accountable, we being the municipality, for fire service and providing it. I think that's really is where the province is going, although it isn't drafted in legislation. But really at the end of the day, I think council is going to be accountable, and the report speaks to that a little bit more clearly. So I'll just keep moving through here. I know our committee's had an opportunity to look at it. It is important to note when we drafted the report that, the recommendations are subjective, right? When we take a step back and look at them, it's how we think it may impact the municipality. And the FSAN's report, there wasn't one note around financial implications, and I think that's an important piece for the municipality to continue to pay attention along. You've got all these recommendations, and there are a lot of good recommendations within that report, but it doesn't talk about the financial impact. And really those conversations need to go hand in hand, and they haven't been to date. There's kind of the outcomes of how to reshape essentially the fire service for Nova Scotia. This is through FSANS, but not the financial piece and the impacts along with that. And I think those are the pieces that need to go along with it as council continues these conversations, understanding those implications to us as a municipality and ultimately the taxpayers. There is some more engagement happening at the end of this month that the CAO will be attending, and myself and Calvin just through emergency management. You know, the CAO has been very attentive to kind of some of these nuances or lack of details that we're still trying to understand in the municipality. There's no recommendations in this report. It is an informational report today, but I mean, there may be discussion of council or committee afterwards, and you may choose to have a recommendation, but really, as a reminder, you asked us to kind of bring back a summary of the recommendations, so that's what we're doing. I'm not going to go into the overall background in detail. A reminder, though, you have 13 fire departments in East Hants, and you also have Brooklyn Fire that provides direct service for some of our residents as well. So essentially, there's 14 departments providing service. Your area rates do range quite a bit of the 13.4 cents to 22 cents per $100 of assessment. And also, like any municipality, your assessments throughout your municipality range as well. But one of the things we're seeing in the reports from FSANS is kind of looking at your ranges, and is there more of alignment across the board and across the province. So to be determined, but that is something we've picked up on. There's a snapshot of where some of the departments have increased their rates over the last little bit. Enfield in 2023 did for some financial planning, capital planning, and you heard the presentation earlier. It was really to kind of work towards the new fire hall. Last 2024, 2025, there were various rates in the rural area that were reduced by 1 cent. And just on that note, but those fire departments receiving additional funding in the form of growth management area grants. So that was a conversation council had. And Almsdale and Lance increased their area rates by 2 cents up to 16 cents this fiscal we're in right now. So important to note that we do provide bookkeeping services, our financial departments, for 11 of the 13 departments. And I think credit to councils of past, that's really forward thinking and providing that administrative support of the departments will position the municipality as whatever this changes in service may or may not be, that you already have been working with almost all of the departments on the financial piece. So I think that will help kind of that conversation down the road, and kudos to the councils of the past to kind of provide that administrative support. The report itself has 16 areas, and I'll briefly touch on them. There's an appendix to the report that goes through all 40 recommendations that was attached to the agenda, so we're not going through that right now, but just a couple key pieces. So the first section is around governance and legislation. And this is probably the biggest, I mean, they all have an impact. One of the biggest sections where really the province is talking about streamlining their legislation around, you know, the fire marshal's office and the supports of the fire service, and really kind of bringing it into one way to the piece of legislation, and probably one department. And what that will mean to the municipality, well, may be easier for us as we work with the province, or our departments work with the province. But currently municipalities are not required to provide fire services, and I think we may see legislation change. You know, right now it's we may provide fire services, but it may end up, and again, this is speculation, may end up changing to shall. And if the accountability is then placed on the municipality, and we may be responsible for budgets, there's a lot that comes along with that. And as we do all of this over whatever the time may be, we have a very important fire service right now in our current model with our volunteers that we need to be, and more so the province, really needs to be mindful of how do we continue to support our volunteers in a way that meets our local needs. And that's just a very important piece of the conversation that we can't lose sight of, because our volunteers, and there are career firefighters within East Hants as well, but the volunteers do provide the majority of our service delivery, and we need to be mindful of that and how we move forward. The other piece that we're seeing is around levels of service, establishing levels of service, and the report is kind of framed as, well, this may be something that happened. I think what Calvin heard on the weekend is that, you know, level of service, establishing that is going to happen. And so That would likely be through risk assessments, which we'll talk about later, but it could be through council policy. It may be through standard development at the provincial level, so to be determined. But it is a good conversation that council should be having regardless. If this doesn't move forward, just having those conversations around service delivery and levels of service. Just moving on, I would note, and this isn't new news to council, but you do have an annual registration process, which is great. That goes through the registration of our departments, through your fire advisory committee and up to council. All those typically mention that daytime response is a challenge for our service delivery. But it is noted that there is quite a robust mutual aid protocols in place, and I would say that our fire chiefs across East Hants really do a great job collaborating from a mutual in general, but also specifically from a mutual aid perspective, probably compared to some other areas across the province. So we're already really well positioned from that lens. The next section's around fire dispatch and communications, not really going to go into that much other than just say, improving dispatch is always important and streamlining so all departments are getting the same information. We have currently 2 dispatches for our departments within East Hants. So that may be streamlined, or the standards will be elevated to be consistent across from whether it's CAD or whatever technical services may be. Also comments in there around cellular service. No new news for council's been advocating for improved cellular service for the fire departments. The next section is around professional standards and training. Talks about moving to the NFPA qualifications and standards should be adopted. There are potential financial impacts for this, and they're unknown at this time. And it is important to maintain the dedicated volunteer base. And there are lots of departments have volunteers that aren't necessarily interior attack firefighters or whatnot. They bring a value to the volunteer service in other components and support the volunteers as a firefighter, maybe not a frontline, it may be a supportive role. So as we move forward, it's important for us to be mindful of how do we create a model that still allows the departments to allow people in their communities to get connected and stay active and volunteer in some way, shape, or form, and that we're not working potential volunteers out of a service delivery model. The other piece that's kind of a sidebar to this, when you see the word professional, and it's probably not new to this council, this council is really engaged in the fire. The word professional, it has a little bit of a connotation when you talk about all firefighters are professional firefighters. Whether you're a volunteer, whether you're a career firefighter, you are professional. And sometimes that gets lost. And so we like to refer to our all firefighters as professional, but you have career firefighters and you have volunteers. And that's just an important piece. And there's things out there, and it's not just specific to Nova Scotia, it's across Canada. Everyone is professional in the way we do things. So important to note that. The next section's around health and safety and wellness. You heard earlier around some of the challenges with Enfield's fire hall with air combustion and decon and cleaning, and those are probably similarities throughout your departments across the province. And this is talking about having OH&S legislation apply right across the board to the fire service as a sector. And some of the departments may already have robust safety systems in place. We know across the board they have standard operating guidelines as 13 departments that they all follow, which provides a level of safety. But as you move into that legislative component, which is there to protect people, our volunteers in our career, it will have an impact, especially around that administrative piece. And that is a thing that's threaded throughout all these recommendations. When you're talking about volunteers and volunteer chiefs, there's an administrative burden that's coming with these recommendations that, firefighters, they want to get out and be able to do their job, but there's all this administrative piece that's coming along with it. And some of them may do it very well. But as you create more robust systems and legislation, then there's that component that needs to have that support there. So the OH&S piece is a recommendation in the report. Moving on to WCB, really there could be a financial piece to this. There's a recommendation in there that suggests WCB coverage for volunteers should replace a full-time salary of their employer. And I think the CAO will pay attention to that one in the meeting a few weeks from now, because that administratively would be a hard one to manage. I think, you know, if the province wants to go, or FSANS with the recommendations to increase that WCB coverage threshold, great, maybe that is a path, but trying to do it to each volunteer's employer, you have 320 volunteers with various jobs, would be hard to kind of manage that way. So just a recommendation to make note of. Some departments across Nova Scotia with careers, they're not required for their careers to have WCB, so this may standardize that as well. Next section is around sustainable funding. Lots of recommendations around how to bring in additional revenue streams for the fire departments. We've even had conversations locally about motor vehicle collisions and billing through insurance, and we've offered that in the past, and we may even build some of that out in the past. Tiered medical response, you've seen earlier again with Enfield this morning. They paused on some of their tiers of volunteer response to medical co-response, and that is a burden that's put. It really is a provincial service delivery that our local volunteers, everyone wants to help everyone, but it does have a burden. It has wear and tear on your trucks. It has wear and tear on your volunteers. So really it is left right now to each department to kind of manage how they provide support to EHS. But I think that's an advocacy piece, or there should be a financial piece that's provided back for us providing a service to Nova Scotians. That really is a provincial responsibility. So, and then it talks about wildland. This section does talk about risk assessments, and it's clear that from the conversation this weekend, risk assessments are going to need to be done by all of the departments, and they will feed into that level of service conversation. And it also feeds into master fire services master plans. And really, council's kind of had those conversations around master plans. The chiefs have been talking off and on for the last year and a half around potentially fire service master plan. They haven't come to any conclusions yet on scope, but the conversations are percolating. But it really is moving to that next coordinated level. Insurance, and again, East Hants is leading in a lot of ways. When we look at some of these recommendations, we're already doing them, or we're already on our way. So we're, from an insurance side, we've kind of standardized our insurance, and we have council pays for a risk consultant for the fire departments. And then the last section is really around volunteer firefighter recruitment. I talked about kind of the retention piece earlier. And this provides recommendations around considerations for provincial tax credits for volunteer firefighters, municipal tax credits, implementing a standardized on-call compensation honorarium model. The first two that I mentioned there do require legislative changes, we know, and I've actually had a conversation recently with the province around implementing a municipal property tax credit. It's not in legislation, you just can't do it as a council. But these are recommendations asking the province to look at these sort of things to provide that recruitment and retention. The thing I would note about the third one, although a standardized paid on call or honorarium model could be good across the board, I think, my opinion, you want that left to the local autonomy to be able to decide how you deliver your service versus mandated across the province. Again, that's only my opinion. In your strategic plan, it does talk about supporting the long-term planning of the East Hants Fire Service and policing services, and this does connect it in that way. I think there's a lot coming to council in the next few years, and a lot of really key decision points on how you work collaboratively with your 13 independent departments and what that means for you. There is an alternative in the report. I'm not going to go into it in detail. You've already had the conversation about kind of scoping out a potential fire service risk assessment and master plan, and council chose at that time not to move that forward into the draft budget. But now you've had this presentation. I don't necessarily think council needs to have that discussion, but I just would highlight it. Now you've kind of heard what's coming, and the question is, do you want to get ahead of this and plan, or do you want to wait and see what the province is doing? But you could kind of put the wheels in motion from the planning side, that when you see what the province is officially going to do, then you're kind of one of the first municipalities out of the gate then versus one of the last. So attached to the report is the final appendix and the A with all the recommendations, and then the roadmap from FSANS. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Just going to go to Councillor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Adam, I've read the whole report and I agree with most what's in it. And you've touched on a lot of things here this morning, but I'm gonna touch on the financial stuff. It's, with the way it is, based on assessment rate now, there's inequality throughout the fire service in East Hants. And that's based on population and assessment. And it's totally unfair to, in my opinion, that one department or many departments, especially in the quarter area, and I'm not knocking them, but they got so much of assessment base to pull from, they get so much more money. We're in the rural areas, we don't have that population base, and we don't have that amount of assessment, right? So we completely rely on groups like the fire auxiliaries and the fire department themselves to go out and raise these extra funds to try to keep up with trends and things through, equipment through the fire department, who are probably, the equipment's probably all about the same price through, you know, each department has to pay the same amount for equipment. But we're not getting that same amount of money back in to buy these equipment, and we have to fundraise ourselves. Give an example, you talked about Enfield Fire Department needing a new building. I can take you down to the Maitland Fire Department, and we are got 3 bay there, we got everything jammed into one. It just, in this day and age, it's pretty well unacceptable. So, it's hard to say, you know, I do believe that we need to have a review of the fire service across East Hants. I've always said that. But I don't know how much we could do with that with not knowing what the province is gonna do and what the province is gonna come up with. Yes, there might be bits and pieces we can do to, you know, to prior, but that would have to be determined. What I would kind of be interested in is how are fire services funded, let's say West Hants, Cumberland, Colchester, how are they getting the monies back to within the departments, and how for such things as equipment, halls, and so on and so forth. That's what I would be interested in, a comparison of different municipalities and how they handle, especially the close ones, right? So that's what I would be interested in, but if there is something we could do, I would support it prior to the provincial province coming down and saying what's gonna take place, but I think for the majority of it, we're gonna have to wait to see what the directive of the province. You talked about, you know, we don't have to provide fire service, but yet we collect the monies, we bill, we collect the monies, we put them out. We have a fire advisory committee, and I can go on and on, like, so the municipality is definitely involved in this. You know, we can say, oh, just because a word between shall and may, we're in it right deep. We have registration process, we have everything. So I really think we're more involved in a shall or may. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Just 2 comments through you, Madam Chair. Just on the your question, there are various models on capital. Some municipalities may coordinate the capital purchasing of equipment and so forth, and there's various models throughout the province on how they're funded. I think, you know, that's more of a jurisdictional scan piece, but when you get into that, then you're getting into likely a fire service review. I mean, staff could bring back a jurisdictional scan. I think at this point, it's probably, you're close enough that if you're gonna wait, you're gonna wait to see what the province does. And you mentioned another point, and it triggered a piece that I didn't mention around accountability. The recommendations as a report are going to have the fire chiefs reporting to either the CAO or through the CAO to council or council. So that is going to connect everything from an accountability lens. And I think the transition from a may to a shall, you know, it'll require council to have those levels of service conversation. And you may not have, it's just a level of service conversation, and it puts you from the risk and liability side too. It connects the municipality a little bit more there. So the only things I would add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to speak is Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair. First of all, I'd just like to thank the Enfield Fire Department for their report here this morning. It was very thorough, and I read it all before this meeting. They've obviously done a lot of work around planning here. I understand that there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 other fire departments that are in the various stages of trying to plan for a fire department. All this discussion about shall and may and all this sort of thing, I think we should be working a little more collaboratively with the fire departments. I'm not a fan of wait. I'd sooner plan for this stuff now. Like, there are going to be financial implications, that's very clear. There's risk, and I don't know what kind of planning. I'd made a motion a few meetings ago. I'm not going to make any more motions around it, but I'm not a fan of waiting or moving at the pace of a glacier, as we tend to hear from time to time. I'd like to see us do some planning around this. That's the only comments I have.
Thank you, Councillor. Next is, the warden is going to speak via Zoom.
Just a second, Warden. Can you tell her to stop talking? She can only hear you with the mic on. Just tell her you can't hear yet.
Warden, we can't hear you. Just stop talking for a minute.
Why can't I hear you? That just plays the meeting.
Can you just switch to the?
That's on the screens up there. Hello, Tim?
Oh, she's muted.
Try now.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes.
I'm not sure how. Microphone muting and unmuting. I agree with some of what each of the previous speakers have said. My concern here is not so much, although I do have concerns with some of the information that's coming forward out of this report and what it's going to mean going down the road. I also have concerns with what's not in this report. And it doesn't seem to me that the province has exactly quite figured out how everything's going to look yet. I see here that we're gonna, at some point, yes, have to do a needs assessment. And we're going to be looking at where fire stations are, and we're going to be looking at a lot of things. It stays silent on many things. They're going to say fire chiefs have to report to the CAO and council. We don't have that capacity at this point in time to administer all the fire departments, and I very much doubt if our fire departments really have the capacity to all of them be reporting all the time to us and or whoever, and I will say it, whoever we might have to hire to look after this. The other concern is who's going to own everything at the end of this? This report continues to be very silent on whether individual fire departments will continue to own their stations and their equipment, or whether that's going to be pushed onto municipalities as well. We don't know. And so those are my concerns, that there's still so much that we do not know. A straight needs assessment, you might even convince me on that, because it's very apparent that we're going to have to do that at some point anyway. I just am not sure exactly what it would look like. Would it be a needs assessment based on the 13 departments we have now and their territories? Would it be a needs assessment that's looking at whether we need 13 departments or not? For me, there's still too much unknown here as to what this is all going to boil down to. So I'd be interested in hearing what other folks are thinking on this. I don't disagree that if all departments are going to have to do a needs assessment, that at some point in time, we'd like to be fairly early out the door to engage whatever consultants are available to do this, because I don't know how many of them there are in the province. And I see a lot in this, as I said, that does cause me concern. And I know we have a very dedicated and a very, an excellent volunteer base for our fire departments that do a lot for our communities. And one of my biggest fears is that these new, I don't know, regulations or ways of doing things that are going to be coming down the pipe may be very challenging for some of that volunteer base. And we could be in a very bad situation if any of this turns into something that discourages our volunteer base from remaining engaged in the fire service. And that is a large, that's a worry for me. So those are my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Next to speak is Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to go back to insurance, which was mentioned. Says that WCB covers for volunteers. I'm assuming these are ones that have a full-time job and not retired. Does the municipality carry a life insurance policy on the volunteers, or this through the individual fire departments?
Through you, Madam Chair, life insurance, I believe we do not. We have WCB coverage based on legislation that the municipality pays for in your annual operating budget.
So you'd have to,
And just on the career side, I'm actually not sure. I know some departments do pay for WCB for their career firefighters. I'd have to validate that I'll do, because it's not a requirement right now, but this is saying it's going to be a requirement for all, and also looking at increasing the thresholds.
The current insurance is equipment and liability.
Sorry, pardon me?
Current insurance is equipment and liability.
Correct. The current insurance that the fire service has is commercial general liability and then also building and equipment.
okay, but nothing for
Not that I'm aware of.
person. Okay,
Not that we're involved with.
okay. So each department would have to have some type of policy. I know Elmsdale does.
That would be a question for the departments and the chiefs.
Okay, and the second question dealt with the presentation from Enfield Fire. And I'll go through corporate. If council decides to go that route, would that be available for all the other 12 departments to apply for?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't have an answer to that question. I think the other piece of that question is,
Is it a one-off?
if I'm hearing you correctly, is that FCM grant available for multiple projects? And I think if council were to ask for a further report down the road on the presentation you heard from this morning, that would be important, because the municipality may also have projects that you may want to access that funding. You're looking at your climate change adaptation plan right now. You also looking at some school site redevelopment projects. So it is an important question, not only for Enfield and the broader fire service, can multiple grants be accessed, or is it only one? So if I heard your question correctly, and maybe I didn't.
That's basically my question is, Councilor Rana mentioned Maitland, so if we went that route on one, could Maitland apply
Sorry,
to
specifically
the
for
same
the,
process?
through you, Madam Chair, specifically for the grant, or just for the
Yes,
buildings?
for the
We would
grant,
have to come
whatever.
back to council with that answer.
Okay. That's all, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Seeing no one left to speak? That's, yep. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Next item on the agenda is new employee introductions. Kim, are you taking that? With the CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilors, this morning we have two new employees to introduce to you. The first one is Colton Dean. He is our new information systems technician. Give Colton a wave. Colton joined us. He's got quite a bit of experience in the IT sector and will be supporting us in a role, in a new role for the municipality, supporting our IT team and supporting you folks and staff with our information technology needs as we grow. As a dependence on technology becomes more important, so does the support that we have to provide to our staff and to council. So we welcome Colton and we wish him a long and prosperous career here. The next one. The next new employee is Jennings Sinclair. She's our new building official. Jennings has joined us, if you'll recall, we added a new position in December to the municipal budget. Jennings we filled that role fairly quickly. She's come to us from Halifax, where she was working as an assistant building official. So she comes with lots of training and experience, and hopefully for Kelly and the team can hit the ground running, and we'll get some more inspections under her belt. So we welcome Jennings and wish you a long and prosperous career at East Hants. It's your turn.
There, I'm on. Thank you. The warden is not here, and I know she would like to have presented these awards herself because she feels important for staff and supporting the staff, so I'm off again.
Madam Chair, if I could just jump in before the deputy starts. I forgot the position change that we have. So we have Jade Robinson, who has been working for us in our planning department. Effective February 1st, she will be moving from her role as development control clerk. She was here on a term position and will also be joining us as a building official starting on February 1st. So we welcome Jade permanently to East Hants. Sorry, thank you.
No.
Yeah. Do you want me to-
Okay, as I started to say, the warden would, sorry she's not able to present these herself. She thinks that's very important as part of her role, but I will fill in for you. First one is Jeff started with this is for Jeff. Jeff started with the municipality in January 2021 as a billing coordinator. He was promoted to manager of accounting in January of 2023. While working full-time, he spent much of his free time for 4 years studying and preparing for the CPA exam. He obtained his CPA designation in October of 2024. Jeff and his team of 7 handled all things financial relating to property taxation and the water utility. They also handled financial reporting and cash management functions for 11 volunteer fire departments. They provide front desk reception services for the municipality, organize the annual property tax and handle it's property tax sale, and handle the municipality cash management and banking operations. They also provide internal accounting support and reconciliation for management. Jeff and his team were deeply involved in a successful transition of financial operations of East Hants Sportsplex starting in March of 2024, as well as the handling behind-the-scenes details of the district boundary charges in the fall of 2024. Jeff has helped his team make a successful transition away from many paper-based processes and towards more efficient electronic processes. Jeff has been a member of the JOSH committee with East Hants since January of 2022, serving as the LEMC Inside Representative. He has also been a volunteer with CRA's Canadian Volunteer Income Tax Program since 2023, which is administered by the East Hants and provides low-income residents with the ability to have their income tax returns completed for free. Outside of work, Jeff is an active member of Hants North Bloomers Garden Club and also sits on the Nova Scotia Association of Garden Clubs. Provincial board member as chair. Jeff is also actively involved in Toastmasters and has been involved in both provincial and regional speaking competitions over the past couple of years. On behalf of council and staff, thank you for your dedication into our community. Jeff. Thank you. Okay, next we have Steve Kanes. We are pleased to honor Steve Kanes in recognition of his 10 years of service with the municipality. Steve began his career with East Hants as an operator in training and quickly advanced to the role of water team operator in April 2018. Since that time, he has focused primarily on water distribution operations, demonstrating a strong commitment to developing his expertise in water loss, investigation, tracking, and migration. Steve has been a key team player in the use of leak detection, listening equipment, supporting system isolation events to locate leaks, and building proficiency at the municipality's point person for repair work. Steve has also been dedicated steward of the municipality's fire hydrant system. He has inspected every hydrant, performs regular maintenance, and has likely painted each one at least once during his time with East Hants. In addition, Steve was an early adopter of asset management technology, working with new tools to document water distribution assets and update system information in real time from the field. His commitment to workplace safety is further demonstrated while he was serving as a member of the Joint Occupation Health and Safety Committee. Outside of work, Steve can often be found at the East Hants Sports Flex supporting his daughters, figure skating activities, or working at his home where he is an active and engaged member of the community. Steve's dedication, expertise, and team-first attitude has made a lasting impact on the municipality. We thank him for 10 years of service and congratulate him on this important milestone. Warden's messing all the fun here. Next, we have Evan McDougall, 10 Years Service Award. Evan McDougall began his career with the municipality of East Hants in November 2015 as manager of Parks and Development and Operation. Evan's role has continued to evolve, expanding beyond his original scope to include close collaboration with other departments and the updated role of manager of parks and buildings. This is a direct reflection of Evan's proficiency with complex land negotiation and property knowledge. Evan has successfully managed an impressive portfolio of impact projects, including the development of the Wickwire Station, the Brickyard River Parks, Burnt Coat Hidden Park, and playground developments across the municipality, and major initiatives such as Shuby River Park revitalization and Kiln Creek Park. Communities in East Hants continue to benefit from the new parks, playgrounds, and sport courts in Walton, Enfield, Maitland, Center Rawdon, East Uniacke, Lance, and Belknap. Project that reflects Evan's commitment to creating safe, accessible, and engaging public spaces. Holding a financial degree from St. Francis Xavier University, along with the certification in playground inspection and contract management and practical experience gained from a number of years in the heavy civil construction industry, have allowed him to successfully manage a number of technically challenging projects. From coordinating the relocation of the train caboose at the Fundy Tidal Interpretive Center to the recent Walton Lighthouse relocation and the construction of a new boat launch in Walton. Evan consistently brings a thoughtful, solution-focused approach on every challenge. Evan's attention to detail and his ability to deliver projects both on time and within budget have made him a trusted and respected member of the East Hants organization. Outside of work, Evan continues to give back through volunteering in sport, coaching soccer, supporting young athletics. Above all, he is deeply dedicated to his family, balancing professional responsibilities with the things that matter most at home. Thank you, Evan, for 10 years of dedicated service to the municipality of East Taos.
Okay, we'd just like to welcome all new employees and congratulations to all those we've recognized for their longevity. Thank you. Okay, so we are very close to the time of our. Pardon? Put her up?
Shirley, could you put that one on, please? Oh.
Did it work this time?
Yep.
Yes, Eleanor.
I'm not going to take any great amount of time. I'd just like to reiterate everything that the deputy warden has said and congratulate our three honorees today and thank them on behalf of the municipality for the great work that they're doing for us and hope that they're here for many, many, many more years. And as Deputy Warden said, I would have liked to have been there, but be grateful I'm not sharing my germs, and that's all I'll say. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Warden. Okay, we are at our scheduled time for a break, and we will reconvene at 10:15. Okay, welcome back to Corporate and Residential Services. The first item on our agenda is Well and Septic Loan Update, Bylaw A201, amendments to Bylaw A200 Water Supply, and On-Site Sewage Disposal System Upgrade Lending Program Bylaw with Amy Pine.
Fantastic. So thank you through the chair. So I'm here today to provide you an update on the well and septic lending or loan program. Majority of our funding has been allocated and we are preparing to manage a wait list, which is why we're in front of you today. Our program is currently funded to 400,000, and like I said, we're quite close to that 400,000 allocated. And so what we're recommending in this report today is an increase by 100,000 to a total of 500,000. And we're also recommending that the program be capped at that 500,000 and that we are able to put the principal loan repayments that we receive through the program back into the program to help reinvest for future applications as well. The report does include a background refresher on the program, which I'm not going to go through today. But what I do want to highlight is that as the benefits of the program. So to date, we have or are in the process of helping up to 17 households, which is fantastic. We've had, I have a table here, table 1, that provides kind of the summary of those without too many details to try to manage confidentiality. But you'll see that we have 9 participants that have completed their upgrade work. 4 of those 9 have moved through to the invoicing process, with one of those invoices in a partial default. I should highlight that for your awareness. So once we account that option to put in those 2025 principal repayments that we've received, we have about 16,000 available to us. So as I said, we're quite close to that 400,000 allocated to date. While things do tend to slow down in the winter months, I do want to highlight that in October to December of 2025, we did see kind of the largest uptake of inquiries and applications coming into the program. And we do suspect that that's going to have some momentum going into the spring construction season as well. I won't go into it, but you'll see I did put my climate change management hat into here a little bit too, and just did some allusions to the drought that we experienced later in 2025, and some figures on the increase in the bulk water station usage as well, and just some various contributing factors that you may or may not see as contributing to the uptake in this program participation. This report is also an opportunity for us to bring back some minor amendments to the bylaw document for your consideration. And this is really based off of the lessons learned from administering the program thus far. So based on program experience, we are recommending a change to the definition of how we look at household income, and really just adding that clarity on how it is reported with putting specific dates in for the notice of assessment. This is a lessons learned of kind of the most questions we've been getting from applicants is which year do you want to see? So we just want to have that clarity and consistency in the definition. We also, potentially an overlook in the initial bylaw draft, we do want to add a factor of CPI to the household income. We're not recommending changing other than by CPI, that 100,000 threshold. As you'll see in the report, I have some details here on kind of the general household income reported as part of the applicant packages, and we haven't quite reached that 100,000 with any of the applicants to date. So we do still feel relatively confident with that, especially if we are able to, moving forward, factor it in from a CPI lens. And then thirdly, we just want to add some language around default and give the treasurer in exceptional circumstances the ability to work with property owners who may be at that kind of default conversation, as long as there's a payment arrangement that has been entered into. And again, that's really that exceptional circumstances language I think is kind of key. So really that's the update here. I do have 2 alternatives here, which you could go status quo, choose not to add any additional funds. We just work with the 400,000 we have and kind of reiterate a little bit within that 400,000, or you could also look to cancel the program, and then we would make a motion here to repeal bylaw A200. So let's go back up to the screen here. The report has 2 recommended motions. So that first one is to give first reading to the bylaw amendments for those kind of 3 high-level amendments I talked about there briefly. And the second one is to extend the well and septic program with the program funding amount to be increased to and capped at 500,000. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Okay. First, we'll hear from Councillor Mitchell.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question on household income. Are the applicants, just a general comment, are they at the low end of the income or they be at the higher end of the close to 100,000?
So through the chair, I do have a little summary here that the average household income was just shy of 60,000. The highest one that we had reported was at 96, so quite close to the 100, but that one's kind of an anomaly in the grouping. And the lowest we had was at 20, but a lot of them around that $40,000 to $60,000 range. And that's household combined income. I will say I haven't done the breakdown of how many people are in each household to see what the individual income is, but that's the household income. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Rhino.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the program is successful. The only concern I'd have, I think, by increasing it as the ask is asking, what effect is that gonna have on our budget process? And we haven't started our budget process. I mean, are there monies available that will not increase the tax rate that we draw from? And I understand it's paid back, right, over a number of years, but is it gonna have a direct impact increasing that on the budget?
Go ahead, Wade.
Thank you. No, it won't have any impact on our budget. This is simply viewed as a receivable on our balance sheet and won't have an actual impact on our revenue and expenditures from a budget perspective. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer.
Is that all, Counselor?
Yes.
Okay, next to speak is Counselor Merriam.
Thank you, and through the chair to Amy, good morning. Thank you for the report. Just a couple questions. One was just wondering, even anecdotally, looking at other municipalities in the province that have a similar program. I'm just wondering if, what their maximum amounts would look like if they have stated max. I guess that's another question. Are there any without a stated maximum in this space?
So through the chair, we actually have done a jurisdictional scan, and it's very challenging to find out what that kind of max funded amount, whether it's at 400 or 500 and 600. A lot of folks are not publicly advertising that. And when we've done some cold calls into municipalities that are actively running similar programs, some of them don't actually have a cap. It's basically checking with council as you get so many applicants and you feel like you're kind of hitting a certain number. Where the cap really is on that 25,000 per applicant loan. And we've seen anywhere from 10 to 30,000 as that range side of it. So there's a little bit more available information in the bylaw side of things for the 10 to 30,000, with the most people being around the 20 to 30,000 range. As even you can see with our numbers, 25,000 is kind of the typical number that folks are seeing when it comes to a well or septic upgrade or replacement at this point. But in terms of that overall project budget funded number, very hard to find, and a lot of the municipalities are kind of playing it by ear as the programs mature.
I don't know if you recall, but was Chester an example of a municipality that doesn't have a stated maximum?
Through the chair, we did call them, and I just can't remember off the top of my head what their answer was, but I can pull up a spreadsheet after and talk to you offline about that.
Yeah, thank you. And looking at trying to get a sense of the cost of this. So as I understand it, there's a lien on the property for the amount of the loan. So it is secured lending in that sense. There could be a situation where it's unfortunate, but someone goes through the process and their house is liquidated, and debts are in some fashion. There's an order of debt repayment, and one would think that with cost, we would recover funds. But I guess my question is there a simple way of, even on $400,000, to say, we project going forward the cost of doing business in this program? I mean, let's face it, the debt's being repaid mostly. So is there something like kind of a little rule of thumb we can think of as, but the true cost of running this program is X?
So through the chair, it's not something that we have explicitly looked into, but off the top of my head, when I look at kind of the overall administrative overhead of staff time, there is, give or take 2 full-time staff up in corporate services or help kind of tag team managing this program from a coverage perspective. And then we also have the support of financial services as well. And especially as we noted there, we had kind of 9 folks who have moved through to their invoicing side of things. 4 of those are kind of in the 2025 invoicing, and 1 of those is still in default. I believe 2 of those 4 did have to have additional kind of conversations with our tax collector to navigate through that. So there is administrative
Of course.
investment there. And I will
Yes.
highlight, there are other municipalities who do have an administrative fee, usually less than $1,000, but to try to offset some of that staff time. But we haven't gone through that activity at this point in time anyways, unless directed otherwise, to start kind of looking at what that true cost of administering the program is.
Thank you. You know, I'll just share too, I did a little looking around on the weekend. You know, CMHC says first-time home buyers in Nova Scotia is my understanding. This is 2020, medium family income at $105,000. Province of Nova Scotia stat, 2023 median income for a couple with children is $135,800. So, you know, certainly I think the threshold being increased by an inflation rate is very reasonable, given some of those other statistics. So I'm going to go ahead and move the motion, but I do, you know, question I guess we all know that it's tough for young folks starting out, you know, who or others as well, you know, to you know, financing is tough in many areas. So I think this is a really valuable program, and you know, there perhaps, you know, future discussion amongst council might be to re-examine the upper limit of the program even further. But I'm going to move the motion. I move that the Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommend that council give first reading to bylaw A200-1, an amendment to bylaw A200, water supply and on-site sewage disposal system upgrade lending program bylaw, and move that the Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommend the council extend the well and septic loan program under bylaw A200-1 with the program funding amount to be increased to uncapped at $500,000.
Okay, motion made and seconded. On before the motion. Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A very important program we have and very successful. And it targets mostly the rural area and the part of the corridor that on septic and well. So I could say the whole municipality is could use that program. Any district have houses on septic and well. So I'm not in favor of capping it at 500,000 because we have an area here that they can pay $5,000 or whatever the connection fee is and pay a small amount all their life, but we don't have that luxury to do it in a rural area. So I think helping out the resident up there is very important to us. And I don't see why we should cap it if it's successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just through you to Amy. Amy, during your jurisdictional scan, did you see a lot of the programs capped at a certain amount of income to apply for? And what was the average, or what was the common theme if you've seen them increasing over time?
Through the chair, I'm really regretting not printing a copy of that jurisdictional scan and bringing it with me here, to be completely honest with you. But yes, the majority we haven't gone kind of rogue with our recommendations. And you may recall, even back probably 3-4 years ago when we first started talking about this program, we did kind of a deep dive on that. And I'd say we're quite in line with it. There are probably a few municipalities that are a little bit more generous than we are. But I think if you really turn it back to kind of the folks who have been calling, because we've also been tracking those of calling too and haven't necessarily followed through with participating in the program. I think we've only had in probably, 50, 60, 70 plus calls that we've had, 3 folks who have made a comment about that 100,000 being a potential challenge for them. One of them, it was an individual who was considering retiring shortly, and it wouldn't impact them once they've retired, but it impacts them today. And the other person, they had children that had moved in, like adult children that had moved in with them. So really that 100,000, in my opinion, is kind of in line with what we're seeing in the marketplace and what's kind of aligned with the folks that are inquiring about this program and participating with the program.
Okay, no, because I had also looked at some stuff too, as my fellow counselor, and like, we are seeing a lot of kids returning home with their families and living with themselves, living with parents, so they have a home, because they're unable to get a home any other way. Right now with the housing shortage and the cost and the mortgage prices, as well as the mortgage rates. And it would take a home that might need a new well or septic out because they're trying to just make it as a family. So it is something I think that we should be looking at, because as it was said, a family of four, in order to even get a home, which would have a septic, it's over 120,000, 130,000. There's been some talk that the new poverty line's 140,000 for a family of four. So there's a lot of other things going on as you look at inflation and everything else. So I'm glad we have this program. I think it was one of the best things that this council has done in a number of years to open it up. And to go along with Councillor Musa, I understand it being capped at 500,000, but is there anything that stops as we approach that 500,000 to come back to council and say, we have another 15 applications? Is there a reserve that we could tap into to increase this funding? Or is it funded just solely out of 500,000 and that's it? There's nothing else we can draw from in the event that the applications go above the 500,000?
So through the chair, if I may, I'm first just going to go back to the first kind of answer I gave you as well, and just go to where the bylaw recommendations are here. And I do want to clarify that this kind of change to the definition is also going to help us navigate situations where adult children may have moved in recently but weren't for the previous notice of assessment. So in an example, say where a retired individual is now widowed, and their two adult children have moved in, we would look, depending on when their application comes in, it would allow us to look at 2 calendar years prior in which those adult children were not there and allow them still qualify for this program. Whereas currently without this language, we can't have that type of flexibility. So I do want to clarify around that kind of income piece. We are looking at, based off of what year of notice assessment they give us, where we can have that flexibility with where adult children may or may not. And I'm actually speaking to a relatively specific example in that situation where, you know, should council pass this, we do have a phone call to pick up and say, you're next in our queue, because now based off of these timelines, we actually can approve you. That second piece about the dollar value and the capping at 500,000, I would love to kind of rely on Director of Finance, or if Kim wants to jump in and speak about that process. But as kind of the manager managing this program, by all means, if all of a sudden in spring we're hitting 500,000 and we've maxed out our dollar value again, I'm going to be going to my director and leadership and saying, are we open to having this conversation again? That capping piece, that conversation was really around also allowing us to reinvest that interest payments back into the program as well. If anyone wants to add to that?
Well, I'm actually going to let Wade speak to it right now. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this whole topic of the $500,000 limit was quite a discussion during the preparation of this report. My opinion that I provided at the time of preparing this report was that we should limit it to the 500,000 at this point in time until such a time as I'm able to provide council with a report in relation to your upcoming obligations and financial requirements, kind of a study looking outward over the next 10 years or so in relation to significant debt that you're going to have to issue likely, and what your limits will be and how you're going to have to look at prioritizing those things. So at this time, I think it would be a bit premature to start tying up significant amounts of your assets and reserves until you've had that opportunity to look at what the big picture is going forward and over the next 5 to 10 years. And that was my advice at that point in time. So once that's done, I think, you can come back to this, but I think it's premature to tie up beyond that at this point.
Thank you. Next to speak is Councillor.
But what I'm hearing is there is no barrier that if we reach that, to come back, the council can then get a financial picture at that time and reinvest more into the program if the funds are available. That's the biggest thing for me is we might not even hit $500,000 this year because it looks like we hit 390,000 last year, right? So, and we were capped at 400,000. So maybe there was a few left over, but if we do hit that point, I would like the flexibility of council to look at that. Would that require a motion that in the event that we get capped out, that we can come back where if there's more applications and look at finances and redistribute funds? After this motion, that's what I mean. Okay.
Okay, Counselor Hebb?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Through to Amy, about applications that was submitted and the money was handed out, can you give me a breakdown of how many was for septic and how many was for well? Just, I know I've kind of put you on the spot here, but I would assume probably more applications for well than would be septic, but.
Through the chair, I do recall when we first started out, so kind of in the earlier stages of this table here, there was a relatively equal breakdown, but I believe as of late, especially into late 2025, the shift has been a little bit more to the well side of things.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay, good, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Next to speak is Warden Ralston.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Speaking in support of the motion, I think this has been a very well-received and much-needed program. And it certainly helps families out who perhaps do not have the financial capacity to borrow at other places to do this, but they still need water and they still need septic services. I do agree with some of the previous comments as well. I will be supporting this motion, but should Councillor Perry be making a motion following this one for this to come back for review? Should we approach the capped amount at any given time? I will also be supporting that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Please.
Okay, the chair would like to speak on this.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Yeah, I just wanted to say I do support this motion and definitely support the program. I feel like it's really been a success. I'm fine with the increase in the $100,000, but I do feel that there needs to be, I'm fine with the cap as well, just because with an increase of adult children in a household, typically means an increase in income as well to that household. So I'm fine with the cap that we have going forward. I think that this program, for as the warden just said, sewer and water are necessities, and for people that it would cause a real hardship to improve on those conditions, I think we've really done a good thing here. So thank you. Thank you, Deputy Warden. Next to speak is Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just clarification, Amy, please. When you say 500, it's the total amount, it's not every year 500, right?
Through the chair, confirming it's 500,000 total,
Total, so we're adding 100 and that's it.
unless there's a future motion asking us to come back should we exceed that.
So I still don't understand why we cap it. We can already, it's already 500, so why do we have to put the cap? I don't agree with the cap in the motion, like, if we're gonna come back and add to it, so why we cap it?
CEO is going to answer.
Yeah, CAO is going to comment on this.
Through Madam Chair, I'm going to speak, and then the warden is also on the list to speak with another comment. So we need a cap of some kind, otherwise it just keeps going and you have no cash left in your bank account at the end of the day because you've lent it out to folks to do their sewer and their septic and well. So we do need a cap to the program. Wade's point was, if you put this up to $1 million and then find out once he does his report that you actually need that extra 500,000 to do something else, you will have spent it on this loan program. And when we say spent it, it's not an expense. And the whole point, this report at first was written as it was still a pilot program. It's a pilot program. Well, it's not a pilot program anymore after you pass this motion. So you're now investing up to $500,000 in the loan program. With it not being a pilot program, as those payments come back in every year, so let's say the qualifying folks pay back $15,000 this year of their loans, that $15,000 can now be reinvested back into someone else's loan. So it's the amount of money that's currently out of the municipal coffers as a receivable for the loan program that is capped at $500,000. That will continue to be reinvested.
Oh, and I understand that, but if we're gonna come back and be able to add to it, so why cap it, like?
Well, you can add to it, you could change that 500,000 to 800,000
Okay,
now
so
if
it's
you wanted.
changeable, okay.
It's up to you by motion of council about how much you want to put in. What we're saying is, for now, until we get a bigger picture, part of your strategic plan is to do some long-term capital planning. So until you get that done, cap it at 500, you're able to help more people that have applications in. If you find that you're in a position that you can put more towards that, then you can go ahead and do that. But this isn't something that you could, actually, I'm not sure if you could borrow for it or not. I'm not sure if there's an allowance in the MGA to borrow for something like this, but you do need a cap because otherwise we would just have to keep approving and then, you could be $3 billion worth of outstanding loans. If you get to a point where you have even $1 million worth of these outstanding loans, like the administrative burden that will have on the municipality will be greater than I think you contemplated when you first entered into the program. And then you're also adding that risk to folks who are in the program. Like, these are liens on their accounts, so you start to get into collections issues, and then you start to get to tax sales and whatnot. So there's a lot of factors that go into this program. It isn't without its administrative burden, but that's not a bad thing because it's helping people in our community, and that's what we're here for. But you do need to make sure that before it gets into something much, much larger, that you have the resources to be able to manage it as a program. And that's why, going to 500 allows a few more loans, but it doesn't open it up. So, you've got a whole other line of funding program that you need to resource. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I have another opinion than you because most of the borrowing is happening in one area of the municipality and it's affecting the whole municipality. So it's a small service that you could provide to the people outside of the growing area here. And the impact is not as much on the borrowing capacity as much as, like, in 100 years, you won't reach one borrowing capacity for one water main or one water treatment plant or something like that. So I think the burden of the borrowing capacity is being thrown at the whole municipality from one certain area, and it's affecting us already. So that's how I see it as a councillor of the rural area. I don't know if other councillors see it the same, but we don't borrow anything for our area. All the borrowing is happening here, and to affect us directly, I don't agree with that. So there's something is not right here. That's how I see it.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not referring to the borrowing capacity of the municipality. I'm not talking about our debt ratio. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the amount of money you have in your reserves to fund this program. Like, the municipality doesn't have the only money that the municipality has in our bank accounts to fund this program is the money that's in your general tax rate contingency reserve. So you have $5 or $6 million in that reserve. The rest of the money that you have in your bank account, for simplicity, is dedicated to other reserves. So that one amount of money that you have in your contingency reserve is all you have to fund these types of loan programs.
Okay.
So-
Now it makes sense to me. Thank you.
Right, so you have to cap it, because you don't want to spend your entire $5 million in contingency reserve on this
No.
program and not have your emergency fund or your contingency fund. So that's the only pot of money you have to use to fund this program unless you go out and borrow.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's a bad idea to go borrow for it, but you don't need to right now. But you also don't need to tie up your entire contingency fund on well and septic program.
Okay. Thank you.
Shirley, the warden, would like to speak.
Okay, just going back to going back 2 years to look at the income, it just kind of tweaked with me that that could work both ways, that if you had perhaps a senior couple who didn't qualify and one person passed away and the remaining person in the household was left all of a sudden needing a new well and sewer, if you go back 2 years, you're taking two incomes into account. Whereas if you did the current year or the previous year, you would have the true income that now exists as only one. And I'm just wondering, have we built any flexibility in around that to look at either or? Or is that something that would be possible?
Through the chair, sorry, I'm just processing that equation. You're correct. I think with any of these kind of clauses in a bylaw, there's always going to be two sides to the coin. And I think what we've done here is looking at the trends of what we've seen so far, both in applications that have come in and just phone call type of inquiries as well. We've tried to adjust the language to have the most kind of consistency, clarification, and meet kind of the scenarios we have seen. I do believe there's language in the bylaw that would help us navigate those kind of specific situations that we could navigate at the discretion of the CAO or designate, which would generally be the treasurer here. So I think if we were to see scenarios where it now kind of goes the opposite of what our intention is, there is still mechanisms for us to navigate that. But this kind of change in language gives us that consistent language to kind of point to when asking for folks for their supporting evidence, whereas right now we're kind of trying to be consistent without those written documented guidelines, if that makes sense.
Okay, so it would not necessarily rule a situation such as I described out. There would be some flexibility there to consider it.
Through the chair, correct. If that situation were to arise, we would look closely at that and navigate that the best way that we can. And if we had to come back to council to revise the bylaw again from a lesson learned, we absolutely would.
Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Okay, seeing no one left to speak, there's a motion on the floor. We'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. Oh, okay. Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I make my motion, I just have one other question. There are a lot of grants and a lot of funding that we receive from the provincial and federal government for different programs. At any time of any of the programs that we have been applying for receiving money, would a program like this qualify for funding for?
So through the chair, we did, probably going back 1.5 years, 2 years ago, look into that type of option alongside our property assessed clean energy PACE financing that we do. And there are kind of groups like Clean Foundation who do administer these types of programs. The challenge with that is the administration fee comes into play. And you're talking $1,000 plus type administration fees. And when we look at kind of our target households for this type of program, that $1,000 administration fee could be quite kind of detrimental to them participating in the program. And so we did kind of close the door on that a little bit in that research, but by all means, as we continue to pay attention to what's out there in the market and kind of you start to see different climate related type funding programs as well in the marketplace right now, we can keep our eyes open on if there's any options out there.
Yeah, because I know were being run by the provincial government, and there was grants and stuff given out, and some things were awarded to help improve things for those type of individuals. Also, I mean, we had the Housing Acceleration Fund that was used for many different things. I know this is not accelerating housing, but it's not decreasing housing as well, because if people don't have a well and septic, then their house, you can't live in it. So I'm just thinking, as we move forward in looking at how government grants, subsidies and different things come forward, we might look at some alternative ways to add funds to this program that doesn't have to come from the general tax rate reserve. We can go into some of these other programs, which will allow benefit across the area. So my motion is going to be, I move that once the cap of $500,000 has been reached, a report with the number of waiting applicants and cost be brought back to council for decision based on our financial situation at the time. I so move.
Okay. Motion is moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll go to the warden.
Just one question. I'm going to support the motion. Motion says once the cap is reached, I'm wondering if we should have the discussion similar to what we are now. We haven't quite reached our $400,000 cap, but we're very close. If perhaps once it's within, you know, a certain amount of the cap is reached, so that we can be a little more proactive, that's all. It's not a deal breaker for me, but just a thought. Thank you.
Sort of the intent of the motion.
Okay, so that is the intent of the motion. Okay, seeing no one left to speak, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously, with the warden voting yea as well. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Next up is an in-camera contractual issue with Amy Pine, so I'll be looking for a motion to go in camera.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
I forget the word, so.
Okay, folks, we're just coming back from an in-camera contractual issue, and we have a motion coming forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that council authorize the CAO to enter into a 10-year agreement with a 10-year renewal term with the East Hants Multi-Use Trail Association for the management and maintenance of the DAR line between Kings Road and Kennecook and the East Hants West Hants boundary in Stanley that permits multimodal recreational trail use consistent with the terms and conditions outlined in the January 8th, 2026 dated staff report, with the intent to move forward to a future agreement for the entire DAR line.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Seeing no one to speak, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. And that concludes our business for corporate and residential services for today. I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn. Second. Move to adjourn.